Look, Ma, no hands.
Hey there everyone, Jeff here. Welcome back to Imagination Tech. Betaflight 2025.12 is here, and with it, altitude hold and position hold. So if you're planning to try out these new features as well as set up GPS rescue, then this is one video you don't want to miss. Stay tuned. So this is the 2025.12 release notes, and there's some information you can read up on here. So you can just probably Google that, and there's also some guides that are available both for this version as well as the latest version. So let's just scroll down to letter P. It says position hold, and this page gives you detailed information on how to set up altitude hold and altitude hold and position hold. So you can read up on that if you want. So here on the modes tab, I just wanted to show you that if you install Betaflight 2025.12, on the default firmware settings, if you just breeze through the update firmware installed 2025.12, you'll notice that here on the modes tab, it's missing the position hold and altitude hold modes. So you won't find it anywhere here because you need to set some parameters when you're uploading your firmware. So I'm just going to show you that quickly right now. We're going to reflash the firmware, so we just auto detect our board again, and then here okay, so on the other options, you're going to type altitude hold. You're going to search for altitude hold as well as okay, so we're clicking altitude hold and position hold. Okay, so you need to see that both of those, and as usual, you just click on load firmware, and then once that's done, just click on flash firmware to flash your flight controller. So just want to take this moment to say that I did recently create a video on the history of GPS rescue, which shows the developments from all the way from pre 4.0 all the way up to 4.5. Okay, so yeah, it offers you now to save the old Betaflight, what do you call this? Your old dump from your flight controller. Right, so once that's done flashing, just connect your flight controller again. It'll calibrate our accelerometer. So I'm going to go through this relatively quickly. We're going to the ports page to set our GPS on port 6. Click on save and reboot. So we're going to be setting up GPS rescue as well as altitude hold and position hold. Okay, so follow along with me. So GPS settings, it looks good. We have the red GPS icon, which means the flight controller is talking to our GPS. So we set home point once, auto detect, use Galileo, and save and reboot. Okay, so now we're going into the Failsafe tab, and we scroll down to set GPS rescue, and then I prefer reducing the satellites to 5, and also the minimum distance to the minimum, which is 10 meters from the home point. Now let's go over to the modes tab, and we're gonna set set that to for arm. We're setting up angle to. Probably going to use my the 6 position, the 6 buttons on my Radio Master Boxer. So now you can see that there's an alt hold option here, and we are also going to set that to using one of the buttons on that 6 position switch. Alright, so we need to also make sure that altitude hold and position hold needs to have an overlap. So when position hold is activated, it also needs altitude hold to be activated. Okay, so GPS rescue, I want to put that right at the buttons 5 or 6 on that 6 position switch, and then beeper. Let's set up beeper. Yeah, okay, let's set up beeper. Right, and then flip the turtle mode. Yep, set that to extreme. Click on save. Okay, let's go over and review these settings. Okay, I think I made a mistake with altitude hold. Yeah, position hold needs to overlap with altitude hold, but altitude hold doesn't need position hold, so we're gonna set it up like this, like so. So you can just copy these settings when you're setting up your own flight controller. So yeah, I'm just testing the buttons right now. Looks good. So if your quad has access to the sky, it can see this, the outside sky. You go to the GPS tab just to make sure that it's picking up satellites, and it'll display your GPS latitude and longitude, as well as the map of the area. Lastly, we go to CLI tab and we type in get POS. Yeah, you can just have it autocomplete. Get POS _ hold without mag, and the default is set to off. So what we need to do is just set it to on. Set pause hold without mag equals on, and we'll also want to set our hover throttle. So that's AP _ hover _ throttle. Let's just take a look at the default value is 1275. My 7-inch usually hovers at 20%, so let's just set it to 1200. And yeah, that's it. You just need to click on save, and I think we're done. And all we need to do is test out our configuration, our quad, in a safe and controlled environment.
Okay, so first we are checking that we have good GPS lock, and we do. We have 20 satellites locked. And the next thing is we want to make sure that we know what our hover throttle is. So we're just going to fly this first in angle mode. Am I in angle mode? Yep, I'm in angle mode. Okay, so the accelerometer has been calibrated. I've adjusted the hover throttle to 23%. For some reason, I was testing this and the sticks weren't responding when I have altitude hold and position hold. So let's see what's happening in the goggles. We're just gonna fly this as a normal quad. I just need to find my mode switches when I'm in the air. So I definitely pressed the altitude hold. I might have set this wrong. If you're trying to do position hold and you haven't gone far out enough, then it doesn't know where the front is, and it's just going to say position hold fail, which is what happened in this case. So let me just I'm just gonna go back and check how my mode switches are set, because I'm trying to do altitude hold and it's saying position hold fail. So definitely something needs adjusting. Right, so I figured out what was wrong, and it was definitely an error on my part. See, when you have position hold, you also must have altitude hold overlapping in the modes. So it's two settings. It's altitude hold and position hold, but if you have position hold, you also must enable altitude hold as well. But the same is not true with altitude hold, and when you have altitude hold, you do not need position hold. Alright, so what I had was the opposite. So even when I was intending to use altitude mode, I also had position hold overlapping. I believe this would a lot more people, not just me, would get confused by this. Activate position hold, or rather altitude hold. As you can see, the throttle point is a little bit low, but once it figures it out, it just stays more or less at the same altitude. You can still manipulate it with the pitch and the roll sticks. And yeah, I'm not touching the throttle anymore. There's a little bit of error because it's just basing on the GPS. It doesn't have a barometer, so it's just using the GPS for the altitude, but more or less it's quite good. Let's discuss what happened. So when I activated altitude hold, it went down to this is no longer a new battery, but if it was a new battery, the hover throttle would be at 23%. Right now it's a little bit drained, so I have to put in a little bit more throttle to keep a stable altitude. So when you're pushing the altitude hold button, when you switch to that mode, it'll go to that altitude hold whether it's higher than your current throttle or lower than your current throttle. So in this case, it's lower than my current throttle, so that's why it drops. And then, after a couple of seconds, it figures out what the throttle is needed to keep it, on more or less the same altitude. So yeah, that was working, and you can still use your pitch and throttle. Okay, right now let's fly altitude hold, but via FPV. So our battery is still at 22 volts. This is a, what do you call this? This is a lithium-ion battery. So right now you have good hover. Let's just turn on altitude hold, and yeah, like I said, it's trying to fly. Well, it's like at 24%, and right now my hover throttle is around 40%. So that's a lot lower. But yeah, just when you have altitude mode enabled, it functions just like your DJI controller. So if you bring it back to the where you activated altitude hold, it's gonna stay more or less at the same altitude. And if you bring it a little bit higher, then it's going to increase that throttle by a proportional amount to your stick deflection. So yeah, let's just, if you see, I have my throttle at 24%, and previously my hover throttle was at 40%, but it's maintaining stable altitude at around 22. And we just need to just keep that throttle there at 22, 23% if you want to maintain a stable altitude. Now this is going to be very useful, for example, if you're flying long range and you need to maintain a specific altitude, especially when you're flying across plains. Probably not as useful if you're climbing up a slope of a mountain. Another use case would be when you're over the water. In this case, I'm here at Baler, and maybe I want to take a video or take some flights over some surfers. Then instead of actively trying to maintain a steady altitude above the water, I can just use altitude hold, and it'll stay at a particular altitude. Alright, so the documentation says that you need to fly for around 50 to 100 meters straight at a decent speed until the home point arrow points directly towards the home when you're heading back. So that's not something we did earlier. We'll try doing that. We'll go forward straight in that direction, and hopefully this works this time. Okay, let's do this. $90, 100 meters now. 120, let's do 150 just get a good indication. Okay, now we're turning back at 150 meters. The wind is quite strong. We need to apply some roll because, yeah. Okay, so we are heading back. We're over here and there are gusts of wind and my laundry is all over the place, but yeah, we'll try to activate position hold now. And it is holding position, although a little bit low and near those grass, but yeah. Okay, so it's holding position over there. I'm not touching the sticks. It's at around a meter or 2 meters off the ground, and it's just trying to hold its position as best as it can. Let's just go over there so you can see I'm not holding the sticks, and it's doing its best. Really what it has. Look, Ma, no hands.
That's how to set up GPS rescue, altitude hold, and position hold in Betaflight 2025.12. These features are incredibly useful when configured properly, but they're not foolproof. And understanding the limits is just as important as getting the settings right. So I hope you found this video entertaining or very useful, I hope. And if you did, please click on the like button so this video gets shown to more people like you. And make sure you're also subscribed to this channel so that you can get updated on new things about FPV and about the things I do on this channel, all right? So I'm going to leave you with that. As always, keep building and keep flying.